My name is Fiona Mitchell, and I'm 35 years old. 3 days ago, I stood in Riverside Memorial Chapel watching 200 people mourn my mother while my father partied on a Cancun beach with his mistress. The mahogany casket gleamed under soft lights, surrounded by white roses Mom had grown herself. Dad's empty chair in the front row screamed louder than any eulogy. Then my phone buzzed with a text from my dead mother's number. Cemetery, Section B, Plot 47. Come alone, now. Before I tell you what I found buried in that cemetery, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story truly resonates with you. I'm curious where you're watching from and what time it is there. Share your location in the comments below. Let me take you back to 3 days before the funeral, when everything started to unravel. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and impending death. Mom's breathing was shallow, each inhale a monumental effort. I held her hand while Dad stood by the door, checking his phone every 30 seconds. "Robert, please," Mom whispered, "stay with me." "Important call from Tokyo," he said, not looking up. "Diana's handling the merger details." Diana. His 38-year-old business associate who'd been handling a lot more than mergers for the past 5 years. Mom knew. We all knew. But in the Mitchell family, we didn't talk about uncomfortable truths. "Fiona will stay," Dad said, finally meeting my eyes. "She doesn't have anything important anyway." There it was, the dismissal I'd heard my whole life. The kindergarten teacher daughter who'd never amounted to anything in his eyes. Too soft, too emotional, too weak to fight back. Mom squeezed my hand. "You're stronger than he knows," she whispered when he left. "Am I?" I asked. "I can't even tell him to stay with his dying wife." She looked at me with eyes that held secrets. "Some battles aren't won with swords, sweetheart. Remember that." 2 hours later, she asked for her lawyer, Eleanor Price. They spoke privately for an hour while I waited outside, wondering why Mom needed legal counsel on her deathbed. When Eleanor left, she handed me a business card. "When you're ready," she said cryptically. Mom died that night. Dad was at a business dinner with Diana. I held Mom's hand as she took her last breath, her final words echoing in my mind. "Check the roses, Fiona. I planted more than flowers." I thought it was the morphine talking. I was wrong. The morning of the funeral, our family home buzzed with relatives I hadn't seen in years. Diana stood in Mom's kitchen, directing the caterers like she owned the place. She wore a black designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly salary, her diamond earrings catching the light, earrings I recognized from Mom's jewelry box. "Fiona, dear," she purred when she saw me, "I've arranged everything. Your father is too distraught to handle details." "Distraught?" I repeated. "He's in Cancun." She laughed, a tinkling sound that made my skin crawl. "Business doesn't stop for death, sweetie. Something a small-town teacher wouldn't understand." My cousin Martha whispered to her sister loud enough for me to hear. Poor Fiona. Still single, still living in that tiny apartment. At least Robert found someone sophisticated. My brother Thomas, the successful lawyer, pulled me aside. "Don't make waves, Fee, not today. Mom's not even buried and that woman is wearing her jewelry." "Just keep the peace," he said, checking his Rolex. "It's what Mom would want." Would she? The mother who raised me to be kind, yes. But the woman who'd whispered about battles and swords? I wasn't so sure anymore. Diana's voice cut through my thoughts. "Oh, Fiona, your father asked me to mention, we'll be renovating this house next month. Too many sad memories. I'm thinking modern minimalist. Those dusty old rose gardens will have to go." The rose gardens. Mom's 30-year labor of love. One bush for each grandchild's birth, she'd said. "Over my dead body," I said quietly. Diana smiled. "Well, technically, it's over your mother's. And she's not here to object, is she?" My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me look. The screen showed a single word. Soon. I found the documents by accident. Or maybe Mom meant for me to find them. They were in her study, tucked inside her favorite poetry book. The one place Dad would never look. Property transfer papers, dated a week before her death, signing over the house to Robert Mitchell and Diana Brooks as joint owners. Mom's signature at the bottom looked wrong, too steady for someone whose hands shook from pain medication. Finding something interesting? Dad's voice made me jump. He stood in the doorway, looking more annoyed than grief-stricken. His vacation tan seemed obscene at his wife's funeral. When did Mom sign these? Last Tuesday. Finally came to her senses about asset management. He walked over, cologne overwhelming the lingering scent of Mom's lavender sachets. Diana has excellent investment ideas. Mom could barely hold a pen last Tuesday. I was there. His jaw tightened. Are you calling me a liar? I'm saying this signature. You're too soft, Fiona. Always have been. He snatched the papers. That's why nobody takes you seriously. 35 years old, teaching finger painting, living in that pathetic apartment. Your mother coddled you too much. Each word landed like a slap. The old Fiona would have crumbled, apologized, retreated. But something had shifted. Maybe it was Mom's final words. Maybe it was the text from nowhere. Maybe it was Diana downstairs, planning to destroy the roses. The house is worth $2 million, I said. Money you'll never need to worry about. He tucked the papers into his jacket. I'm protecting you from complicated financial matters. Besides, Diana and I are getting married next month. She'll be family. The doorbell rang downstairs. Guests arriving for the funeral. Dad straightened his tie. Black silk, brand new, probably Diana's choice. Smile, Fiona. Try not to embarrass the family. Thomas cornered me in the hallway, his lawyer face on. Fee, we need to talk about Mom's estate. What estate? Apparently Dad and Diana own everything now. He pulled me into Mom's bedroom, closing the door. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The house alone is worth $2 million. Mom's investment portfolio, another $3 million. The education trust she set up for future grandchildren, $1.5 million. My knees went weak. $6.5 million? That we know of. Dad's already drained the checking accounts. $500,000 gone. Transferred to an account in the Caymans. How do you know this? I still have friends at the bank. They called me, concerned about unusual activity. He ran his hand through his hair. There's more. Diana's been jewelry shopping, posted a photo on Instagram yesterday, wearing Mom's engagement ring, the 3-carat diamond Dad gave Mom for their 25th anniversary, while Mom was dying. The receipt shows she bought it from herself. Dad sold it to her for $1. Thomas looked sick. They're liquidating everything before the will is even read. What about the will? Dad says there's a new one, leaves everything to him and Diana. Mom would never. I know. He gripped my shoulders. But unless we can prove otherwise, they'll strip everything. The house, the investments, even the rose garden. Diana's already got contractors lined up. They start demolition Monday. Downstairs, organ music began. The funeral was starting. Through the window, I could see the hearse pulling up, my mother's casket visible through the glass. We should go, Thomas said. My phone buzzed. Mom's number flashed on the screen. My heart stopped. The text read, "Don't let them win. Check plot 47. The funeral director ushered us to the chapel. 200 faces turned as we walked down the aisle. Mom's book club, her charity foundation friends, Dad's business associates, all watching our family's grief performance. Diana had positioned herself in the front row, in Mom's seat. She dabbed at dry eyes with a handkerchief, the picture of sorrow. Her Instagram story this morning had shown her and Dad at the airport bar, champagne glasses raised. To new beginnings, the caption read. Aunt Helen grabbed my arm. Your mother's Monet reproductions. Diana's already called Christie's about selling them. Those aren't reproductions, I whispered. Mom bought the originals at estate sales over 30 years. $3 million in art then, gone by Monday. The roses would be bulldozed, the paintings sold, the house gutted, everything Mom touched, erased. Diana would sleep in my mother's bed, wear her jewelry, spend her money, and Dad would let her. The real tragedy, Uncle Carl said behind me, is how Margaret wanted this place preserved. She told me last month, "Never let them sell the house, Carl. It's the grandchildren's inheritance." She told me the same thing, Mrs. Patterson from next door added. Said the roses had secrets worth protecting. Secrets. Mom's final words echoed. I planted more than flowers. The organ stopped. Reverend Williams began. We gather today to celebrate Margaret Mitchell's life. My phone vibrated again. This time Thomas saw it too. Mom's number. We both stared at the screen. Now, Fiona, bring witnesses. The truth is buried with the roses. Diana stood to deliver a eulogy about the mother-in-law she'd grown so close to. Her crocodile tears glistened as she spoke about their special bond. That's when I decided. Whatever was in Plot 47, whatever Mom had planned, I was done being soft. If you've ever felt powerless watching family members disrespect someone you love, you'll understand what happened next. This story is about to take a turn that nobody, including me, saw coming. Have you ever received a message that changed everything? Let me know in the comments. And if this resonates with you, please hit that subscribe button. Now, let me tell you about that text message. Diana was mid-sentence about Mom's generous spirit when the chapel doors slammed open. Dad stumbled in, reeking of airport bourbon, his vacation clothes wrinkled. Diana's face went white. Sorry, everyone, he slurred, making his way to the front. Flight delays. 200 people watched him squeeze past mourners, knocking over flower arrangements. He kissed Diana full on the mouth before turning to face the crowd. My wife would understand. Business comes first. He swayed slightly. Speaking of business, Diana and I have an announcement. Robert, not now, Diana hissed. Why not? Margaret's dead. No point pretending anymore. He raised his voice. Diana and I are engaged. Wedding's next month. You're all invited to something happier than this depressing show. Gasps rippled through the chapel. Mom's sister Grace stood up, shaking with rage, but Thomas pulled her back down. Furthermore, Dad continued, Diana's moving in tomorrow. We're renovating immediately. Margaret always hated this old place anyway. That was a lie so bold, so cruel, that even Diana looked uncomfortable. Mom had loved every brick, every board, every flower of this house. You're drunk, I said, standing up. My voice carried in the stunned silence. And you're pathetic, he shot back. 35 and nothing to show for it. Your mother wasted her life coddling you. Diana knows how to support a successful man. Successful? I heard myself say. You mean spending Mom's money while she died alone? Diana stood, diamonds flashing. Your father chose happiness. Deal with it. My phone buzzed. Thomas's too. Then Eleanor Price's. Then at least a dozen others throughout the chapel. All at once. The message on my screen made my blood run cold. Now, Section B, Plot 47, bring everyone. The chapel fell silent as phones buzzed throughout the room. Everyone who'd received the message looked confused, frightened, or both. The number showing on all our screens was Mom's cell, the one supposedly buried with her in that mahogany casket. What kind of sick joke is this? Dad snarled, his drunk bravado cracking. Eleanor Price stood up, her voice calm and authoritative. It's not a joke, Robert. I suggest we all go to Section B. You're behind this? Diana's voice pitched high. This is harassment. I'll sue. You'll want to see this first, Eleanor said. She looked directly at me. Your mother was a brilliant woman, Fiona. She knew exactly what would happen after her death. Thomas grabbed my hand. Fee, what's going on? I don't know. But I thought about Mom's final words, about the roses, about battles not won with swords. This is ridiculous, Dad spat. We're not going anywhere. But the crowd was already moving. Mom's book club ladies, her charity friends, the neighbors, all filing out toward the cemetery. Even Dad's business associates looked curious. Plot 47 is in the old section, Mrs. Patterson announced, near Margaret's Rose Memorial. The Rose Memorial, where Mom had planted a bush for every grandchild she'd hoped to have, where she'd spent hours tending, pruning, whispering to her flowers. Diana grabbed Dad's arm. "We're leaving, now." But Reverend Williams blocked their path. "I think you should stay, Robert. Your wife's final wishes deserve respect." 200 people were now walking toward the cemetery. Dad and Diana had no choice but to follow or look even more guilty than they already did. My phone buzzed once more. A single line of text. "The combination is your birthday, sweetheart." This time, I knew exactly who was sending these messages. And why. The procession to Section B looked like something from a movie. 200 people in black, walking through the cemetery in broad daylight, following a ghost's text message. Dad and Diana lagged behind, their whispered argument carrying on the wind. "This is insane," Cousin Martha said loudly. "Fiona's clearly having a breakdown." "Poor thing," her sister agreed. "Grief makes people delusional." Diana seized the narrative. "Everyone, please. Fiona's always been fragile. Her mother's death has obviously pushed her over the edge." "I'm right here," I said. "Sweetheart," Diana's voice dripped condescension, "maybe you should sit down. Thomas, take your sister home." Thomas surprised me. "No, we're seeing this through." "You too?" Dad snarled. "Both my children. Disappointments." Mrs. Patterson spoke up. "Robert Mitchell, your wife's body isn't even cold and you're insulting her children?" "Mind your business, you old bat." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mom's friends closed ranks around us, their disapproval palpable. But Diana wasn't done. "Look at her," she pointed at me. 35, single, broke, following mysterious texts like a crazy person. This is what Margaret raised. A weak, delusional woman who can't accept reality. The crowd was splitting. Some looked at me with pity, others with suspicion. A few were already recording on their phones. 5 more minutes, someone said. "Then I'm calling 911. Eleanor Price walked beside me. "Your mother predicted every word Diana just said. She knew exactly how this would play out." We reached Section B. Plot 47 was marked with a small headstone, "Future Generations." The rosebush planted there was Mom's favorite, a rare hybrid she'd cultivated herself. At its base, freshly disturbed earth suggested something had been recently buried. "This is grave robbing," Dad shouted, but I was already kneeling, digging with my bare hands. My fingers hit metal 6 inches down. A small fireproof safe, the kind Mom used for important documents. The combination lock gleamed in the afternoon sun. Eleanor Price stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. "Before you open that, Fiona, everyone should know I've been Margaret Mitchell's attorney for 15 years. "We use Branson and Associates," Dad interrupted. "You do. Margaret didn't." Eleanor's smile was sharp. "She came to me 3 months ago with specific instructions. She knew she was dying. She also knew what certain people would do after her death." Diana's face had gone pale. "This is entrapment." "This is justice," Eleanor corrected. Margaret was brilliant, but more importantly, she was thorough. I remembered now. Mom meeting with Eleanor privately, documents being signed, whispered phone calls. "Your mother was brilliant," Eleanor had said at the hospital. Not is. Was. She'd known Mom's plan all along. "Some things need witnesses," Eleanor continued, addressing the crowd. "That's why you're all here." Margaret wanted transparency. She wanted the truth revealed, where it couldn't be hidden or twisted. My fingers found the combination lock. My birthday, 03/15/88. It clicked open. Inside, a USB drive, a manila envelope marked "Evidence," and a letter in Mom's handwriting. "Read it," Thomas urged. But Eleanor held up her hand. "First, everyone should know that 3 months ago Margaret hired a private investigator. She also had every room in her house wired for sound, legal in this state, as she owned the property." Dad staggered. She recorded us? Every conversation, every plan, every forged document. Eleanor pulled out her phone. Should I play the recording of you and Diana discussing how to forge her signature? Or the one where Diana says, "The old bitch will be dead soon anyway"? The crowd gasped. Diana tried to run, but Mom's book club ladies blocked her path. I opened Mom's letter with shaking hands. Her familiar handwriting blurred through my tears. "My dearest Fiona," I read aloud. "If you're reading this, then Robert and Diana have done exactly what I expected. They've stolen, lied, and disrespected my memory. But I'm not really gone, sweetheart. I'm in every rose I planted, every plan I made, every protection I put in place for you." The crowd pressed closer. Even Dad and Diana stood frozen. 3 months ago, I discovered Robert had been slowly poisoning me. Screams erupted. Diana stepped back from Dad, her face white. Not to kill, just enough to keep me weak, confused, compliant. The toxicology report is in the envelope, but I switched my medications without telling him. I was dying anyway. Cancer, not poison. But I needed clarity for my final moves. I looked at Dad. He was shaking his head, mouth opening and closing like a fish. "I created a video will," I continued reading. "Legal, notarized, witnessed. It's on the USB drive. Everything Robert claims I signed was forged. The real documents are with Eleanor, but I wanted more than legal justice. I wanted the truth exposed." Thomas took the USB from my trembling fingers. "There's a laptop in my car. The house, the money, the art. It's all in trust for my children and grandchildren. Diana Brooks gets nothing. Robert gets exactly what he deserves. The $50,000 he borrowed in 1995 and never repaid. Nothing more." Mom's friends were crying. Dad's business associates stepped away from him. "Play the video," someone shouted. "Someone." Eleanor nodded. "Margaret insisted on multiple witnesses. She knew you'd all need to see this to believe it." As Thomas ran for his laptop, my phone buzzed one last time. "Stand tall, my soft-hearted warrior. This is your moment." While Thomas fetched his laptop, Dad found his voice and his cruelty. "You're all falling for this?" He laughed, ugly and bitter. "My pathetic daughter who couldn't even keep a man, playing detective?" "Robert, stop," Diana whispered, but he was beyond stopping. 35 years old, and what has she accomplished? Nothing. Teaching snot-nosed kids their ABCs while Diana and I built an empire. "With Mom's money," I said quietly. "Money you never deserved!" He was screaming now, spit flying. "You're weak, just like your mother, always crying, always feeling, no backbone, no business sense. You think this little stunt changes anything?" The crowd watched in horror as he unraveled. Someone was live streaming on Facebook, another on Instagram. Mom's funeral was going viral for all the wrong reasons. "I gave that woman everything," Dad continued. "A house, a name, status. And she repaid me by raising 2 worthless children." "Worthless?" Thomas had returned, laptop in hand. "I'm a partner at Morrison and Associates." "Because I made calls. Because I have connections." Dad turned to the crowd. "Without me, they're nothing. Fiona still drives the same pathetic Honda from college, still shops at Target, still loved her mother," Eleanor interrupted, "which is more than you can say." Diana tugged at Dad's arm. "Baby, please, let's just go." "Go where?" He laughed maniacally. "To the house I'm selling? With the money I've already transferred?" He pulled out his phone, waving it. 500,000, already in the Caymans. Another 2 million transfers Monday. By Tuesday, Diana and I will be in Switzerland, and these pathetic excuses for children can fight over scraps. Diana's face changed. "Robert, you said the money was just temporarily moved. Did you really think I'd marry you?" Dad sneered at her. "You were convenient. Stupid and convenient." The crowd gasped. Diana's mask finally cracked completely. Diana slapped Dad hard across the face. The crack echoed through the cemetery. "You bastard! I gave up everything for you." "You gave up nothing. You were nobody." a secretary playing dress-up in Margaret's jewelry. He rubbed his cheek, still drunk, still cruel. At least you were good in bed, unlike my frigid wife. That's when I snapped. Not with violence, but with words. Mom wasn't frigid. She just couldn't stand you touching her after she found out about your affairs, all 5 of them. The crowd stirred. Dad's business partners exchanged looks. Oh, didn't you know? I pulled out the manila envelope. Mom hired investigators. Jennifer from accounting 2010, Susan from the country club 2013, that bartender in Vegas 2016, the massage therapist 2018, and finally, Diana 2019. Mom documented everything. Lies, Dad sputtered. Photos, credit card receipts, hotel records. I held up the papers. She knew everything, Robert. She stayed for us, for the grandchildren she hoped to have. But she knew exactly who you were. Thomas had the laptop ready. Should I play Mom's video will now? This is illegal, Dad shouted. I'll sue everyone here. For what? Eleanor asked. Attending a funeral? Witnessing a public reading of a will? You're the one who made this public, Robert. You announced your engagement at your wife's funeral. You admitted to fraud in front of 200 witnesses. The laptop screen flickered to life. Mom's face appeared, thin but determined, Eleanor and 2 other witnesses visible in the background. I, Margaret Ann Mitchell, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament, revoking all previous wills. Dad lunged for the laptop, but 3 of Mom's book club ladies blocked him. Navy veterans, all of them. He didn't stand a chance. As Mom's video played, her voice strong and clear despite her illness, my phone buzzed again. This time, the message was different. Check your email. Now. E. Eleanor. She'd been sending the texts all along, following Mom's instructions. I opened my email. There it was. Scheduled send from Margaret Mitchell. The timestamp showed it was programmed 3 months ago. My darling Fiona, if you're reading this, you've found the safe and the truth is coming out. But there's one more thing. Check the rosebush, not just beneath it. Inside the hollow of the stone marker. Thomas paused the video. Fee, what is it? I knelt by the headstone marked Future Generations. There was indeed a small hollow, covered by a removable plate. Inside, a judge's emergency injunction, dated yesterday. Mom knew Dad would try to sell everything immediately, I said, standing. So she had Eleanor file for asset protection. Every transaction he's made in the last 72 hours is frozen. Dad's phone started ringing. Then Diana's. Then both, repeatedly. That would be your banks, Eleanor said calmly. The FBI takes elder financial abuse very seriously, especially when there's evidence of poisoning. You can't prove, Dad started. The toxicology report from Mom's hair samples says otherwise. 3 months of low-level arsenic. Not enough to kill, just enough to confuse. You wanted her weak so she'd sign anything. The crowd was recording everything. Justice for Margaret was already trending. Everyone, please stay, I said, finding my voice. You need to see this through. Mom wanted witnesses not for revenge, but for protection. So no one could later claim this didn't happen. Thomas restarted the video. Mom's next words made Diana collapse. To Diana Brooks, who called me a dying old bitch while stealing my jewelry, I leave nothing but this message. I knew. I always knew. And I forgive you. What would you do if your own father publicly humiliated you at your mother's funeral? Sometimes the quietest people have the loudest revelations. If you've ever been underestimated, this next part is for you. Drop a comment about a time you proved everyone wrong. And remember, like and subscribe if this story speaks to you. Now let me show you what was waiting at that cemetery. The crowd had grown. Word spread fast in our small town, and now nearly 300 people surrounded Plot 47. The local news van pulled up, reporter and cameraman jumping out. "This is insane," Dad kept muttering, but he couldn't leave. Mom's Navy friends had formed a subtle barrier, not threatening, just present. Thomas held the laptop high so everyone could see. Mom's face filled the screen, her voice carrying across the cemetery. "The house at 47 Rosewood Lane, valued at $2 million, I leave in trust to my children, Fiona and Thomas Mitchell, to be preserved for future generations. It may never be sold while a Mitchell descendant lives." Diana made a choking sound. "My investment portfolio, currently valued at $3 million, I leave to the Fiona and Thomas Mitchell Educational Trust for the education of their children and grandchildren." "But they don't have children," Dad shouted. Mom's video continued as if she'd heard him. "Whether or not my children have married or had babies yet, Robert, is irrelevant. Unlike you, I think in generations, not fiscal quarters." The crowd murmured approval. Several people applauded. "My art collection, which Robert believes consists of reproductions, actually contains 6 original Monets, 3 Degas sketches, and a small Rembrandt. Total value, approximately $3 million. These I donate to the Metropolitan Museum, with the stipulation that they be displayed with the dedication, 'From Margaret Mitchell, who saw beauty where others saw only profit.'" Dad's legs gave out. He sat hard on a nearby headstone. The IRS implications alone would destroy him. "To my husband, Robert Mitchell," Mom's voice hardened, "I leave the $50,000 you borrowed from my father in 1995 to start your business. The debt you swore you'd repaid but never did. Consider us even." Mom's video continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I know you've been poisoning me, Robert. Small doses of arsenic in my evening tea. Not enough to kill, the cancer was doing that anyway, but enough to make me seem confused, weak, compliant." Gasps and cries erupted from the crowd. Someone called 911. "I switched my medications 3 months ago without telling you. Every document you thought I signed while confused? I was fully lucid. I knew exactly what you were doing. I let you think you were winning because I needed evidence." On screen, Mom held up a folder. "Every forged signature, every illegal transfer, every conversation about stealing from our children, I recorded it all. The FBI has copies, so does the IRS, and the state attorney general." Diana was backing away from Dad, but there was nowhere to go. The crowd had formed a complete circle. "To those watching this," Mom looked directly into the camera, "know that I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. I gave Robert 40 years of my life, bore his children, supported his dreams. In return, he conspired with his mistress to rob our children of their inheritance while I was dying." The video showed Eleanor stepping forward with documents. "This will was executed in the presence of 3 witnesses and a notary public. It supersedes all previous wills. Any documents dated after this recording are fraudulent." Mom smiled then, the smile I remembered from childhood when she'd solved a particularly difficult crossword puzzle. "Robert always underestimated me. He thought because I was kind I was weak. Because I was soft-spoken I was stupid. But I was a mathematics professor before I married him. I understand probability, planning, and most importantly, patience." Dad was sobbing now, not from grief, but from the realization that he'd lost everything. Eleanor pulled out a tablet, swiping through documents. "Here's the divorce decree, filed 2 months ago, finalized last week. Margaret Mitchell died a single woman. Robert has no claim to anything as a spouse." "That's impossible!" Dad screamed. "I never signed—" "You did. Remember the refinancing documents Diana brought you to sign? Page 47 was the divorce agreement. You were too busy staring at her cleavage to read what you were signing." Diana's face went from pale to green. "You told me those were—" "I know what he told you," Eleanor cut her off. "We have that recorded too. You thought you were helping him steal from a dying woman. Instead, you were helping Margaret protect her children's inheritance." Thomas pulled up bank records on his phone. "The $500,000 Dad transferred? It's frozen. The FBI flagged it as elder abuse fraud. The house deed he filed yesterday? Invalidated. You can't sell what you don't own," Eleanor added. Mom's video was still playing. I've left letters for each of my children to be opened privately, but publicly I want to say this. Fiona, your gentleness is not weakness, it's strength. You chose kindness in a family that valued cruelty. You stayed soft in a world that told you to harden. That takes more courage than any hostile takeover or business merger. I was crying now. Good tears. Healing tears. Thomas, your sense of justice will serve you well. Stand by your sister. She'll need you. The video showed Mom signing the will with a steady hand, the witnesses signing after her, the notary applying his seal. This is legal and binding, Eleanor announced. Any attempt to contest it will trigger the criminal evidence to be released to prosecutors. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. The police cars pulled up just as Mom's video reached its conclusion. 2 FBI agents stepped out, followed by local officers. Robert Mitchell? The lead agent showed his badge. We need to ask you some questions about fraudulent wire transfers and elder abuse. Diana Brooks? You're named as a co-conspirator. But Mom wasn't done. Her video had one more revelation. To those who called my daughter weak, who dismissed her as too soft, watch what happens next. Fiona doesn't fight with cruelty or schemes. She fights with truth and integrity. And in my experience, nothing is more powerful than that. The crowd was completely silent now, all eyes on me. Mrs. Mitchell knew she was dying, Eleanor announced. She spent her last months not in bitterness, but in carefully protecting her children's future. Every document is legal. Every recording is admissible. Every piece of evidence has been verified. Thomas stood beside me, his hand on my shoulder. Dad, it's over. You ungrateful, Dad started, but the FBI agent cut him off. Sir, you have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it. As they led Dad away in handcuffs, Diana tried one last manipulation. Fiona, please, I was just what? In love? Following orders? Temporarily evil? I kept my voice steady. You called my dying mother a bitch. You wore her jewelry while she took her last breaths. You planned to destroy her rose garden. No, Diana. You're exactly where you belong. The second FBI agent cuffed her. As they passed, Diana hissed, You're still nothing. A nobody teacher. I'm Margaret Mitchell's daughter, I replied. That's everything. The crowd erupted in applause. Someone started singing Mom's favorite hymn. Others joined in. 300 voices rising in the cemetery, celebrating justice delivered. Eleanor handed me a folder. Your mother prepared everything. Sign here, here, and here. My hands were steady as I signed the papers. Each signature reclaimed what Dad had tried to steal. The house, the accounts, the future Mom had protected. This freezes all assets Robert accessed illegally, Eleanor explained for the crowd. The FBI will handle criminal charges, but civilly, everything reverts to Margaret's estate immediately. Thomas was already on his phone with the bank. The freeze is confirmed. Dad can't touch another penny. The house? I asked. Yours and Thomas's. The contractors Diana hired have been canceled. Your mother's roses are safe. Mrs. Patterson started crying. Margaret would be so proud. Eleanor pulled out another document. There's also this. Your mother set aside $50,000 for Robert, not out of kindness, but to prevent him from claiming he was forgotten in the will. It's the exact amount he borrowed from her father in 1995. He built his entire business on that loan, Thomas said. Claimed he was a self-made man. Nothing about Robert Mitchell was self-made, Eleanor replied. Your mother's family money funded everything. She has receipts going back 30 years. I signed the last document. What happens to Dad now? Federal charges for elder abuse, fraud, forgery, and attempted murder by poisoning. He's looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. And Diana? Conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse, theft, 5 to 10 years. The crowd was dispersing slowly, everyone talking about what they'd witnessed. The news crew was interviewing Mom's friends, all of them praising her brilliance. Your mother played the long game, Eleanor said quietly. She knew exactly how this would end. I looked at the rose bush marking plot 47. She always did love a good mystery novel. Guess she decided to write her own ending. Before the FBI took him away, Dad broke free for a moment and lunged toward me. The agents caught him, but not before he got close enough to speak. This is all Diana's idea, he pleaded. She manipulated me. I loved your mother. You know I did. I looked at the man who'd raised me, who'd walked me down the aisle at my college graduation, who'd also called me worthless an hour ago. No, Dad. You loved money. You loved control. You loved yourself. I'm your father. Biologically, yes, but Mom was my parent. She's the one who came to my school plays while you were at business dinners. She's the one who held me through breakups while you said I was too emotional. She's the one who celebrated my teaching career while you called it a waste. Thomas stepped forward. She's also the one who made sure we'd be okay after she was gone. You tried to steal our future. She protected it. Dad's mask finally fell completely. You sanctimonious little, I made this family. Without me, you're nothing. I pulled out the check Eleanor had prepared, $50,000 drawn from Mom's estate. This is what you're worth to this family, the exact amount you stole from Grandpa to start your business. Take it and never contact us again. 50,000? I deserve millions. You deserve prison, Thomas said. Be grateful Mom left you anything. Dad looked at the check, then at the FBI agents, then at the hundreds of people watching. His empire, built on Mom's family money and maintained by her patience, had crumbled in less than an hour. You'll regret this, he said as they led him away. No, I called after him. The only regret is that Mom didn't leave you sooner. The crowd applauded again. Justice served cold at a funeral. As the police cars pulled away, the crowd began approaching me differently. The same relatives who'd whispered about my failures now couldn't meet my eyes. Cousin Martha shuffled over. Fiona, I'm sorry. I had no idea what you were going through. You knew Dad was cruel. You all did. You just thought it was funny when directed at me. She flinched. We thought you were weak. I was grieving. There's a difference. Mom's book club surrounded me like a protective wall. Mrs. Chen, the president, hugged me tight. Your mother told us to watch over you. She said, when the truth comes out, Fiona will need real family. We're here, Mrs. Rodriguez added. Anything you need. Thomas was fielding calls from reporters. No, my sister won't be giving interviews. This is a private family matter. But it wasn't private anymore. Someone's live stream had gone viral. #Margaret's plan was trending. Comments poured in from strangers who'd watched their own inheritances stolen, their own mothers dismissed. Uncle Carl approached carefully. Your mother was brilliant. We all underestimated her. You underestimated both of us. Yes. He looked ashamed. I stood by while Robert insulted you. I'm sorry. One by one, family members apologized. Some seemed genuine. Others just wanted to align with the winning side. I accepted them all with the same calm grace Mom had taught me. Being soft doesn't mean being weak, I told them. Mom taught me that. She also taught me that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. The funeral director approached. Ms. Mitchell, should we proceed with the burial? I looked at Mom's casket, still waiting patiently. Yes, she's earned her rest. As we walked back to the chapel, Thomas whispered, You were incredible. No, I said. Mom was incredible. I just followed her plan. 3 weeks later, the full scope of Mom's planning became clear. The FBI had built an airtight case using her evidence. Eleanor called with updates. Robert's assets are frozen. The IRS found 20 years of tax evasion. He hid income using Diana's name, which makes her equally liable. How much does he owe? Much. With penalties and interest, about $3 million. Everything he has will be seized. His business? built on fraudulent loans using your mother's forged signature as collateral. The company will be dissolved. His partners are already distancing themselves. Thomas had more news. Diana flipped on Dad to get a reduced sentence. She's providing evidence of 6 other women he financially exploited. 6 others? All secretaries or assistants. He'd romance them, convince them to put assets in their names for tax purposes, then dump them when he got what he wanted. The doorbell rang. A courier delivered a package from the FBI. Inside were Mom's recordings, hundreds of hours of Dad and Diana planning their theft. One recording stood out. Dad's voice, clear and cruel. "Margaret's too sick to notice. We'll drain everything before she dies. The kids are too stupid to fight back." Diana's laugh followed. "Especially Fiona, she's pathetic." I turned it off. I didn't need to hear more. "The prosecutor wants you to testify," Eleanor said. "Absolutely. It won't be easy. Their lawyers will attack your character." "Let them try. I'm not the same person who stood silent at Mom's deathbed." Eleanor smiled. "Your mother knew this would change you. She said Fiona will find her steel when she needs it most." Outside, Mom's roses bloomed despite the autumn chill. The garden Dad had wanted to destroy would outlive his legacy. Justice wasn't just served, it was documented, filed, and prosecuted. The family fracture was immediate and permanent. Dad's siblings chose sides, splitting the Mitchell clan down the middle. Aunt Patricia called me crying. "How could you do this to your father? Family doesn't send family to prison. Family doesn't poison family either." She hung up. We haven't spoken since. But for every relative lost, 2 friends of Mom's stepped forward. Her book club established a scholarship fund in her name. Her charity foundation planted a memorial garden. The community that had watched her suffer now honored her brilliance. Thomas and I grew closer than ever. We met weekly at Mom's house, our house now, to sort through her belongings. Each box revealed more of her planning. "Look at this," Thomas said, holding up a journal. She documented every insult, every cruel comment, every financial manipulation, dated and detailed. The entry from my 30th birthday. "Robert called Fiona a failure today, in front of 20 guests. She smiled and said nothing, but I saw her heart break. I'm documenting this for the future. Someday, she'll need to know she wasn't crazy. It really was that bad." "She was building a case for years," I said. "She was protecting us for years," Thomas corrected. We established the Margaret Mitchell Education Trust with the inheritance. Every year, it would fund college for 5 young women studying mathematics or education, Mom's 2 passions. Dad tried writing from prison, claiming innocence, demanding money, threatening lawsuits. We returned every letter unopened. Diana's family reached out once, asking us to drop charges. She was manipulated, they claimed. She's a victim, too. I sent them the recording of Diana calling Mom a dying old bitch while trying on her jewelry. They never contacted us again. The Mitchell family name, once synonymous with Dad's business success, now meant something different: justice, planning, and the triumph of patience over greed. 6 months after the funeral, I stood in front of my classroom, teaching fractions to 3rd graders. The principal knocked and entered. "Ms. Mitchell, you have visitors." 3 school board members stood in the hallway. "We've been following your story," the superintendent said. "The way you handled that situation, with grace, intelligence, and strength, is exactly what we want our students to learn." They offered me the position of district curriculum coordinator. Triple the salary, district-wide impact, respect I'd never had before. "Your mother was right," the superintendent added. "Kindness isn't weakness. It's the hardest kind of strength." I accepted. Thomas called that afternoon. "Did you see the news? Dad's business partners are suing him for fraud. Apparently, Mom's evidence exposed decades of embezzlement." "Good. You've changed, Fee." "No," I corrected. "I've just stopped apologizing for who I am." That evening, I walked through Mom's rose garden. Each bush thrived under my care. The one at plot 47 had produced a rare blue bloom, something that happened once in a decade, the gardening book said. Mrs. Patterson stopped by. Your mother would be so proud. You stood up to them without becoming like them. She taught me that. In her final letter, she wrote, "Never let cruelty make you cruel. Never let their weakness make you hard." She was remarkable. She was. But you know what? So am I. It just took me longer to see it. I no longer answered to too soft or too weak. I was Fiona Mitchell, daughter of Margaret, protector of roses, keeper of promises, and finally, enough. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. For a moment my heart jumped, but it was just the district confirming my new position. Mom's messages had stopped, her work was done. 1 year later, Mom's house hummed with life. Thomas's twins played in the garden, while his wife Sarah helped me prepare Thanksgiving dinner. The dining room table, the one Diana had planned to sell, was set for 20. But not the 20 Dad would have invited. No business associates or social climbers. Instead, Mom's book club, her charity friends, Mrs. Patterson, Eleanor Price, and the people who'd stood by us when the truth came out. "Did you see?" Thomas asked, showing me his phone. Dad was denied parole. The poisoning charge sealed it. Good. Diana had been released to house arrest after testifying against Dad. Last I heard, she was working at a Walmart in Ohio, her assets seized, her Instagram deleted, her dreams of wealth destroyed. The doorbell rang. Eleanor entered carrying a pie and an envelope. "This came to my office. One more letter from your mother. She asked me to give it to you 1 year after her death." I opened it carefully. Mom's handwriting, steady and sure. "My dearest Fiona, if you're reading this, you've survived the storm. You've learned that kindness and strength aren't opposites, they're partners. You've discovered that being soft doesn't mean being weak. It means choosing gentleness in a harsh world, which takes more courage than any aggression. The roses are yours now. Each one represents a lesson, patience, planning, and the power of deep roots. Tend them well. They'll bloom long after the memory of cruelty fades. Your father thought he was teaching you to be hard. Instead, I taught you to be smart. He thought wealth was power. You've learned truth is stronger. Be happy, my darling. You've earned it. All my love, Mom. P.S. Check the blue rose at plot 47 every spring. I planted more than flowers." I folded the letter, tears streaming. "Thank you, Mom, for everything." That spring, I returned to plot 47. The blue rose had bloomed again. Another miracle, the gardening expert said. But as I knelt to tend it, I noticed something else. A small metal box, newly exposed by spring rain. Inside was a USB drive and another letter. "Fiona, if you found this, you've learned to tend the roses as I did, with patience and attention. This USB contains everything, every journal entry, every plan, every moment I chose strategy over impulse. But more importantly, it contains videos I recorded for your future children, messages about their grandmother, about strength, about choosing kindness, even when the world gives you every reason not to. Your father never understood that my softness was strategy. My kindness was calculated. My patience was power. I let him think he was winning for 40 years, while I built an empire he couldn't see. One made of love, loyalty, and unbreakable legal documents. You thought you were weak because you're gentle. But gentleness is not weakness, it's strength under perfect control. You have that control now. The roses know our secrets. They've heard every plan, every prayer, every promise. They'll bloom long after we're gone, reminding the world that some things can't be bought, stolen, or destroyed. Your softness is not weakness, darling. It never was. It's your superpower. The world needs more people who stay kind despite cruelty, who choose love despite loss, who plant roses despite those who'd rather pour concrete. Be soft, be strong, be both. The world needs you exactly as you are, Mom. I held the letter to my chest, standing among the roses she'd planted, understanding finally that every thorn had been deliberate, every bloom calculated. She hadn't just protected our inheritance, she'd protected our hearts. Your softness is not weakness. Her greatest lesson, her final gift. 5 years have passed since that day at the cemetery. I'm married now to a kind man who loves roses and understands that gentleness is strength. We have a daughter named Margaret, who plays in her grandmother's garden and learns that being soft in a hard world is the bravest thing you can be. Dad died in prison last year. A heart attack, they said. I didn't attend the funeral, but I sent roses, blue ones from Plot 47. The card read, "Margaret's daughter remembers." Diana disappeared completely after her probation ended. I hope she found peace. I hope she learned. My rules for life are simple now. Kindness is not permission for cruelty. Softness is not an invitation for hardness. Patience is not acceptance of abuse. Forgiveness is not forgetting. Every spring, the blue rose at Plot 47 blooms impossibly bright. Botanists can't explain it. I don't try. Some miracles are meant to be mysteries. To those who've been called too soft, too weak, too emotional, you are not. You are choosing kindness in a world that rewards cruelty. You are staying gentle despite having every reason to harden. You are playing a long game that others can't even see. Your softness is not weakness. Say it until you believe it. Live it until they see it. Prove it when it matters most. Mom knew that the softest hearts often carry the sharpest minds. She knew that patience could outlast aggression, that planning could defeat power, that love, documented, notarized, and properly filed, could triumph over greed. Being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. It means knowing when to be a wall. And sometimes, just sometimes, it means being the rose that blooms despite the concrete, beautiful, soft, and absolutely unbreakable. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe. Have you ever had to stand up to family betrayal? How did you find your strength? Share your story in the comments. I read every single one. Remember, setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's necessary. And sometimes, the softest hearts need the strongest armor. Thank you for listening to my mother's final lesson. Until next time, stay strong.